Now, if you've heard, maybe you missed this. Hopefully you have. If not, I'll give you the brief version. So the NFL is considering a mandate. Now, considering is not a mandate. They're considering a mandate to require face shields for players during games on their helmets, like covering up the face mask, the inner part of the face mask. They're in a negotiation. All 32 teams have either been given or will be given what's known as, it's an Oakley product, the Oakley mouth shield, to test out during training camp. And it's just like you would imagine. I would describe it. I'm looking at a photograph of it, but I'll describe it because we're on radio. But it's a plastic visor, and it really extends down. It's like the same material it looks like of the plastic visor, and then it's attached to the visor, but it's a different part of it. It's the face guard, and the players have already been complaining about visibility and breathability, and they're not happy. The biggest complaints have been raised by J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt is not happy. He has intimated that he will not play if this face shield is used. Let us discuss the question, should the NFL mandate the face shield for all players? Now, I'm going to vote no on this. This seems to me to be overkill. And my observation is you've got advanced calculus, pseudoscience, and placebo. And we will combine all these things together. Now, number one. When I saw this story at first glance, I thought this is comical, right? I mean, to make the germaphobe crowd feel comfortable, you come up with all these different requirements. But I understand that for optics, the NFL's got to do a lot of this stuff. The most important part, ultimately, is the testing. That's the most important part. You can throw these other things on top if you want, the social distancing guidelines. But if you think about how to accurately follow those guidelines if you're playing a football game, and you think of what kind of cartoon this would turn out to be, you would have to physically widen an NFL field. An NFL field is a little over 53 yards wide, right? 120 yards total because each end zone's 10 yards. So it's 120 by 53 and a third yards. It's simply not big enough, right? Even something as simplistic as the huddle, you then have to turn to advanced calculus to figure out how to do it, because if you were to huddle between plays while 6 feet apart, using some Maller math, you've got 11 players in the huddle, 6 feet apart. That means a 66-foot circumference of the huddle there, circumference, and then you'd have, I guess it would be 21 feet in the width as well. You'd have 66 by 21. You would also have to eliminate the bedrock of football, which is tackling and blocking, if you really want to make football as safe as possible. And now some have said, why not just make it flag football, right, and all that? But that's taboo because the flag could end up being contaminated, so you can't really have flag football. Can't do that. And imagine how long this is going to take. If, like, between every handoff and every time somebody drops back to throw a pass, they've got to hit the pause button, and they have to go disinfect the ball, or any time a ball is used, they have to throw it out. Each possession, they have to bring in a new football. And imagine in the halftime portion of the football game, they pass out alcohol-based hand sanitizer in the huddle, and then they also have the extended soap and water wash your hands session at halftime. Again, these things, I get it. I understand for liability reasons why you would do this. I get it, but the testing, that's the most important thing. Now, the second thing, this entire episode, which is still being adjudicated between the NFL and the union, on the face of it, it sounds like a load of bullcrap to me, right? I understand, again, sports leagues are easy targets. They often are the first ones to be taken advantage of because they're seen as easy marks. And they can take advantage. Opportunistic companies see a sucker. Now, for reference, the NBA has invested thousands of dollars on what some people think is legitimate and other people think is nothing more than a mood ring, this device that the NBA purchased that claims it can detect the coronavirus early on. There's no proof whether it actually works or not, but the NFL bought a ton of them and passed them out to all the players. And now the NFL, right, you got this company saying, wait a minute, Oakley's like, wait a minute, hold on a sec, we can make some money here. So the NFL is asked to join the pseudoscience bandwagon here. There's no way to guarantee that this mask is going to work and will stop the spread of anything during the game. And just the way that football's played, the NFL is going to test, and test again right up the keister for every player. And that is not 100%, right? People get false positive, false negative tests, so that's not 100%. The question, though, becomes, what are you willing to accept, right? What are you willing to accept? What is reasonable, considering the players in the age range of the NFL are at very little risk of dying? Statistically, there's almost no risk of that. Now, the final point, the face mask idea in general for the NFL players, the league looks at it like it kills two birds with one stone, right? It's good for the lawyers. The legal department has to vet everything, and they've got to get waivers on top of waivers and all this red tape and all that. So I go back to the L word, liability. And you're trying to limit liability, and from that respect, it makes sense. If the NFL mandates this and players, which I don't think they should mandate it, but if the NFL mandates it and then players refuse, then they are at their own peril if something were to happen, and then they would try to file a lawsuit. Now, the other thing here is the placebo effect. Now, when I go out to stores, I wear a mask. I'm not allowed to go to most stores unless I have a mask on, but I've read enough where unless you have a medical grade mask, it's not really doing anything. And most people I see are wearing bandanas and things like that, and it's the placebo effect, right? It gives people the false sense of security. And if you wear a mask, the way I've been told by people who work in the medical business, if you wear a mask and you can smell, like if you're married or you got a girlfriend, you smell your girlfriend's perfume or your wife's perfume, then it's not going to stop the virus from getting in. I mean, we're talking about micro droplets and all that spread. Research does show that placebos work. That even when people know they've been given placebos, they still work. But the thing that really proved this to me is I was out at the store a couple weeks ago, and I saw two different things. I saw somebody who walked through the store that didn't have a mask on, and everyone was looking at them like they had the bubonic plague and they were trying to kill everybody. And then I saw somebody who was walking through the store that had the mask on, which was like below their nose. So their nose was fully exposed, but they had the mask like covering their mouth, right? So it was one of the, I have a prop here. So it was like they had the mask like this. I've got the mask on, it's like this. So their nose isn't covered, right? And nobody raised an eyebrow. Nobody said anything. But it's just as non-effective under that. If you're going to wear it, and unless you have a medical grade thing and all that, if you can smell through it, perfume and things like that, it's probably not doing anything at all. But NFL players in general, just get to the point. You're talking about playing the game of football. You're going to have exchanging of bodily fluids, snot, saliva, sweat, blood. All of that is going to be swapped on the field. It's going to happen. And so now the only way to eliminate that 100%, the solution would be to have NFL-branded hazmat suits, complete with a self-contained breathing apparatus. That's about the only way. I mean, there's going to be an exchange. There's going to be, even you put mask on and mask after mask, there's going to be stuff that gets through, whether it's snot, saliva, sweat, blood, and possibly all of the above. So, and I guess you'd have to put like a little miniature air conditioner on there, or like a heater if it gets, in the cold time, you could adjust the suit. But that's where we are right now. We're still waiting the word, if you will, from the NFL, whether they're going to mandate these face shields or not.